Welcome to Stormwatch by Grey Noise Intelligence. Each week, we cover the latest info on what's happening at Grey Noise, Census, VulnCon, and Run Zero. Take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, toss out some expert opinions, and drop the occasional conspiracy theory. But today, we are ecstatic. We are thrilled. We are like hugging face emoji to have Tracy Maleeff on. You may know Tracy better as InfosecSherpa, providing tons of information to the community. But I can't go into it because we're gonna have a great discussion with her. We're gonna trace her journey from library science to cybersecurity and learn all about the importance of information literacy and all sorts of other things in cybersecurity. Tracy brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise. We're so thrilled to have Tracy. And then before that, Todd's gonna bring us all down by just a boring thing about like VulnCon and like, but that's great. Then we're gonna drone on and on after, maybe if we have time, with Tracy, about a clever tactic employed by the Ukrainian Defense Forces, who have been delivering malicious cyber payloads from downed UAVs. Time permitting, if you thought the exploding pager story from 2024 was wild, you won't believe what other mid-region devices have been weaponized. Talk about cyber risque management. And of course, we cover the latest from all of our benevolent overlords, including where some of the crew will be during RSA. We're going to try to get the RSA conversation right before the end. So stick to that if you want to know what's shaking. Morning, everybody.
Morning, Bob.
Good morning.
Oh, and I should point out before we continue, we have a new member of the crew on, Ariana from Ariana. Would you like to, before I do the vibe check with everybody, could you tell folks what you do, who you are, and what your role is at Census, please?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. I'm excited to be here, folks. My name is Ariana. I am one of the senior security researchers over at Census. And a lot of what I do is go and find weird internet things on the internet and help improve our data quality and coverage. So I'm often running like independent experiments, crazy stuff, to help better our data, to help better everyone out there. And I'm happy to be here.
Wait, you weren't in Wicked?
Huh?
I have the wrong questions. I thought you were in Wicked.
Oh, you know what? I try to keep it on the down low. That's not this video stream. That's the other video stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Oh, wow. So normally at this point we do vibe checks, and normally I go last, but my vibes are pretty bad right now, and so I'm going first because I have asked everyone else to try to have a happy one, even if they didn't bring a happy one to the table today. And I didn't prep anybody for this one, so sorry if I'm gonna like get a couple people like a little nervous right now. But I'm not sure if everybody realizes this, but this profession of cybersecurity is kind of important. It's grown up over the years, and there's a silence right now. And I'm not going to talk about the what. If you don't know what it is, you can figure it out. It's really bad. There's a certain topic right now, and people that should not be silent are silent. The silence is actually pretty deafening. There's some leaders in the industry that I'm upset with. They're normally not shy of blathering about anything, even stuff they don't know about, maybe especially stuff they don't know about. And I'm just suggesting that they have no right to call themselves defenders anymore in any way, shape, or form. We've always had rough edges in our industry, but we got lots of snake oil, lots of charlatans, but I've never once associated my industry and the people that I used to know well with the term cowards, and now I do. So it's been a pretty dejecting 5 or 6 days, maybe 8 days for me. Sorry about that, guys. With that, Glenn, I'm making you go first. But I'm making you go first. You got to make everybody happy, because normally you steal everyone's happiness. So please try to.
Oh, jeez. I'm gonna say, I agree with what you just said, but moving on from that, I will say, it's awesome to have Tracy on this week. It's also so awesome to have Ariana on this week. So I'm gonna take that as the positive vibe. Also, it's pickleball day, so that's always good. So yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Todd, I'll go next with you since you're one of the old pack now. What's your vibe today? Vibe check.
I know, right? How many shows is this? Like fourth show, fifth show?
4 shows. Yeah, it's great.
Delighted once again to be on Stormwatch. I have been having a little bit of an existential crisis since Sunday. So I live in Austin, Texas. I live specifically in North Austin, so where all the lamers live, and it's not nearly as fashionable as South Austin. But on Sunday morning at 11:20 a.m. local time, someone's house blew up 3 miles away, and it rattled my windows. It was insane. And ever since then, like, I've been punctuating most of my thoughts with, well, my house didn't blow up today, so I've got that going for me. I mean, it sucks for them. There wasn't anybody in it. Well, there was one person apparently like in the garage, just like working, and he was fine. A couple people got taken away for injuries. Nobody died. And it's still kind of a mystery of why it exploded. All the debris didn't really have any burns or anything on it. I assume God smited them, I guess.
Wait, so yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Overwatch is there. Let her let you see.
Overwatch also is around here, but it was heard and felt reported like 10 miles away.
Because they don't have natural
normally,
gas, right? So it's got to be propane or something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So normally those explosions, because like they happen here every couple of years in the area here, but it's usually gas. Like there's no natural gas.
I mean, there's natural gas, but doesn't that usually come with like a bunch of burns? Like, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, I guess. Yeah. Wow.
It's still kind of a mystery as to why it happened. And so, like, I don't like living in a world where your house can just explode mysteriously and days later no one knows why.
Add it to the list, Todd.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, you know what? Not today. So doing pretty good.
I have a friend that once was making a bold claim that if so and so whatever, basically like, well, then God can strike my house with lightning, and I swear to you, within 3 days.
Oh no!
It happened, and they had to replace all the electronics. No, the house didn't burn, but within 3 days, they had to replace all the electronics in their house.
It's a level 10 cleric spell.
They're making it a challenge, so maybe just
like a pocket universe could have just appeared and then disappeared, and that could have done the whole.
I'm thinking, yeah, exactly. Like micro singularity was where I went.
Yeah.
No. Maybe, I don't know. Nobody can tell. Anyway,
sadly, that's not the worst thing that can happen to you. So
no, and that was the thing. Everyone was fine. It's just like, what an inconvenience.
Guess I'm getting a new house.
What an inconvenience! My house just exploded. What an inconvenience!
Were they on Zoom?
I will throw to Ariana though.
Yeah, the vibes are weird. Ariana, save us from this craziness. Save us.
What a vibe check. I mean, so unfortunately, my vibe was going to be similar to Todd's, but was more along the natural disaster realm. So now I'm like, should I change it? Okay, I'll stick with it.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I live in Southern California, and I'm just like working at my desk, which is right by a window. And at first, I heard some like shaking in the stairwell. So I was like, oh, my landlord's like doing something again. Then the shaking in the stairwell turned to shaking everywhere, and I was like, I went from come on, Tony, to real fast, and ran into the hallway and did the duck cover. I had nothing to hold on to. And after I like calmed down, I was like, I'm thankful that this day is beautiful, and I'm thankful nothing bad has happened. And it really takes those moments sometimes to be like, I am thankful for everything that I have right now, and I'm just happy to be here. And then I went for like this lovely walk in the sun and was praying that there would be no aftershocks. But yeah, it was I had not experienced an earthquake in a couple years. So I was like, oh, that's what those feel like. That's right. I gotta go. I gotta get away from this window.
Wow.
So a lot of gratitude. Again, similar to Todd, but in I think a much more natural setting. Like it's like, oh, earthquake. Okay, it happens. I live in Southern California. Not like, oh, the house down the street, just blew up. Weird. So that's my vibe check. I'm just glad to be here.
Wow.
Yeah, seek the joy.
Seek the joy. Yeah, appreciate it. And I'll pass it off to InfosecSherpa.
Yeah, like Tracy, guests are not required to do this. It's only required of the football. You are, if you wait, you're more than welcome to do one. That'd be great.
I have a good vibe / shameless plug. I have some Irish vibes because in about a month's time, I will be the keynote speaker at B-Sides Dublin. So I'm, getting my my agenda together of what I want to see in Dublin. I have been there before, so just trying to figure out what to see in the short brief trip there. And my talk is going to be actually, my talk was accepted to RSA 2 years ago, but at the last minute, due to a family emergency, I had to withdraw from the conference. So I'm going to give my RSA talk, which is how to improve information security through library science.
Yes.
That's amazing. And it will probably be, I'm just, since I'm an RSA hater, it will probably be more well received at the B-sides than it will.
Did you say you have
Oh.
or you have not been to Dublin?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
2012, I think. Yeah, I went to a librarian conference in Belfast, and then my husband and I took the train to Dublin
That's so cool.
and saw
I
stuff.
love
And
Belfast.
actually, I
Yeah.
do have some Irish heritage, so I'm excited, kind of, emotionally of I don't think my my relatives, when they boarded a ship for the New World, ever thought, one of their descendants would, fly back into Dublin to give a talk at Trinity College. And that's the other thing that's really
Oh,
geeking me
that's
out is
great.
that,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's so
it's at
cool.
Trinity College.
That's a
So
gift.
yeah,
Very
I just
believable.
feel
Yeah.
I just feel really proud of my ancestry of like, look how far, far you've come
That's
in
amazing.
100
That is,
years or whatever. Yeah. So that's my
that is
good
so cool.
vibes are all Irish today.
Nice. Overwatch, you got any good vibes? VulnCon was fun but long. Now it's crunch time. Yeah, it's RSA. We're gonna talk about that. Yeah, I don't blame you. Whatever we can do to help Overwatch, like scotch, vodka, whatever. We'll be glad.
The way she wrote that made me think of what was it Kathy the comic strip, like where she was always just like, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It was giving Kathy.
Chocolate,
Nice.
chocolate. Yeah.
So, as everyone knows, we do have a podcast because you're listening to it or watching it right now or watching it after the fact or listening to it after the fact. Then it would be great if you could go to the Stormwatch page and subscribe. It will make Overwatch happy and less stressed. You saw it would be great if you do that. And you get to know all that's happening. And you would have known Tracy was going to be here ahead of time. If you were surprised today, it's a pleasant one, but you would have been able to prepare. You could have even joined live and asked questions if you had done that. So shame on you for not actually doing that. And we did not do a themed for the show poll this week, but we did do a poll and we tried to make it a little bit light, little less serious in these serious times. So we did what C2 or data exfil method concerns you the most, and I was happy to see that all three platforms still have a sense of humor. Because one of them usually isn't. And I think mostly ChatGPT writes the messages on LinkedIn right now. But it was TCP, UDP, cleartext DNS, DNS over TLS, HTTPS, or Quick, ICMP, or Steve from accounting. And you all decided that Steve was your arch nemesis when it comes to data exfiltration.
Steve.
By a large amount. This isn't like 51%. This is like 70%, 80%. I mean, Steve's a real threat. We got to figure out what to do.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I just use Steve from accounting because that's like a colloquialism. Like, I don't think we have a Steve, do we? Overwatch? We have a Mike. I don't think we have a Steve.
For a company of 50 people, we have a lot of two-name people too. Or two people with the same name.
Yeah.
Not two names.
Yeah, Steve, I'm sorry. Steve, it wasn't for I'm sorry, Steve, it wasn't meant for you. Oh my gosh. I feel really bad now. Well, I mean,
but he's not in accounting, so it's fine.
Okay.
I don't know if this was intentional, but I feel like accounting is a good department to highlight as a reminder of how much they see and how vulnerable they are. And I have said in talks in the past that even doing some recruiting from the accounting department because they're on the front lines seeing a lot of these fishes for invoices and all. So I don't know if accounting was on purpose or not, but that's a great way to highlight that that's a very vulnerable department within an enterprise.
I also do feel bad for accounting. I was sharing we're going to quickly move from this, but I was sharing a new model context protocol server for a database thing called DuckDB, but it also interfaces with the parent company or the commercial entity of DuckDB, which is a cloud-based version of DuckDB called MotherDuck. And someone was remarking about that's a weird name. And I'm like, yeah. And the accounting people have in every department and every enterprise has had to deal with our stupid cyber and IT names for the past 30 years. Because who's going to pay MotherDuck money? I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to quickly get this off the page, but Todd did a phenom write-up of his experience at VulnCon, and we are going to we want people's faces, not browser windows up. So I'm going to get rid of Todd. You got like a couple minutes to give us the lowdown on VulnCon.
Very short. Yep, I was at VulnCon. Overwatch was at VulnCon. We vulned all the cons and cons all the vulns. And it was like, I had a great time, right? Just first and foremost, I am not on the program committee. I had a speaking slot, but then I lost it because I changed jobs, and that's fine. But that was fine. The thing I was going to talk about was very capably handled by people who are still at CISA, so it was great. But honestly, like here's the thing, and I actually kind of love your thoughts on this, InfosecSherpa, of like, this is like such like a micro corner of a sub industry, right? Like, you know, it's only about like vulnerabilities and how to count them and how to name them and how to describe them and how to talk to people about them and how to maybe like figure out how thready or risky they are, and then like as a stretch goal maybe fix them. Like, don't actually care about that part. So but it's all about just like this weird minutiae, and I do feel like library science like does have a role here, right, of like how to do this, because like we've invented a Dewey Decimal System and it's called CVE, and like, is it great? No. Is it the best we have right now? Yes, I'm gonna go with yes. It is for all of its faults and everything else. And by the way, VulnCon is not just like a big kumbaya for CVE. Like, everyone was dunking on everything, and because it's like we're all dissatisfied with everything, right? Because we're InfoSec people, and so I don't want to give the impression that like this is just like a big handhold of like, hey, we did it, you know, pat ourselves on the back, we did a CVE system. It is definitely not that, right? But like it was just so interesting to me that like there was it's so like it's a tiny conference. Only 400 people showed up, which is still kind of huge, right? But it's not RSA, right? RSA is expected to hit 45,000 this year, so it is a vanishing percentage of InfoSec, and very focused on like this one little problem space. And so that really revved me up. I used DuckDB while I was there for the first time. I'm very impressed. On my crummy little like MacBook Air. It is like lightning. I don't know.
I have to hear more DuckDB talk.
Yeah, and let's talk about DuckDB for the next 15 minutes. No, but let me throw to Tracy. I mean, you weren't there, right? But like, you're familiar.
No. So I was unfamiliar with VulnCon until 15 minutes ago.
Right.
But
it is only in its second year, so it's
okay.
very,
So
very new.
I would like to put this on my radar. Yes, one of my pet peeves as someone with a library and information science degree, um, is the lack of classification systems. I mean, I know we have the MITRE CVE,
Oh,
but
we have
yes,
several.
yeah. But
This
how
is its own
everybody
problem.
calls an APT their own name, that just makes me
Uh-huh.
nuts. And yeah, there does need to be some sort of centralization, standardization. This is something I've been thinking about for years. I've actually had people say to me, "Well, why don't you just create something like in my free time?" Like, it's not, that's not something like
Just go
that's
make a
not a
thing. It'll be fine.
hobby.
Everyone will
Yeah.
adopt it. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, like, I mean, while I appreciate the vote of confidence, that's not really something one does in their spare time. Yeah, we do need more centralization and classification. Unfortunately, with the dismantling of CISA and God knows what else, I don't know where that's going to come from. And I get that companies want to have a unique name for a threat for marketing purposes. I get that. I understand that. It just makes it very difficult as a researcher when one threat group has 15 different identities or different names. So yes, we need better we need better classification. I think every vendor has their own glossary of infosec terms. I'd like to see more consolidation. So yeah, it's um, I don't know what the right answer is, and there's actually more than one classification system in library science. People just really only know Dewey
Sure.
Decimal. I'm more familiar with Library of Congress because that's what law firms used. There's also a medical one. So and it's not hypocritical that libraries have these separate classification systems. They're tailored towards the industry that they're in. Some of the broader ranging ones are the Library of Congress and Dewey Decimal. So anyway, sorry, I could go on forever about this, but yes, you're correct. It does not sit well with me that this is all scattered. I have some ideas of how to possibly start to solve it, but it's not. It's going to be more than one person, and you want other voices because, as a quick historical side note, Melville Dewey was not a good person.
Oh.
He was misogynist and racist,
Wildly
and
racist.
wildly racist. Actually, I want to say it was 1915. He was banned from a library conference because so many women had complaints about him. Um,
Whoa,
so yeah,
that
so it
bar
is
was a
take.
lot higher. That's wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure of the date, but it was a surprisingly early date about something like that. And the reason why I'm just bringing this up is, everybody likes, everybody mentions Dewey Decimal. I'm not chastising Todd, but I also just want to
Oh,
enlighten
no,
people.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine it is quite triggering.
we let's because it's actually taken librarians, decades to undo the racism and the misogyny that was baked into the Dewey Decimal System.
Right.
So
Which,
that's also why it can't just be built overnight. It needs to be a group project. That's what happens when you have one person
Mhm.
overseeing the classification. You get stuff that is, morally not correct. So it's complicated, but we all need to work together and consolidate this because to me, it's just bananas that, one group is called five, six more different things. So
Well,
I'll end there.
yeah,
I could go on for longer, but yes, that is a problem.
no, 100%. And to add on to what Todd and Tracy are talking about, my concern is that if people are so focused on the classifications that I'm like, is this just distracting from the end goal, which is actually remediation? Like that is the end goal, right? So we're so concerned about like, oh no,
Is
I've
it?
got this proprietary thing, they've got that. Well, apparently not. Apparently not, according to
not at VulnCon.
VulnCon.
No.
But yeah, like way back in a previous life, I was doing research that wasn't around internet connected devices, and I basically was working as a researcher within a SOC, and they're like, we need to get our remediation rates up. We're using this vendor. This is the system we have. What can you do to improve it? And when that is the end goal, and you have buy-in at multiple places, you can actually increase the remediation rate from like 3% to 80%, which is what we saw internally in our org. But that was because there was multiple points of buy-in and people weren't focused on like, oh, but like, is it a 9 or is it a 9.2? The end goal was, we need to fix this. How can we fix this? And I'm just so concerned when we're focused on classifications and names and like, what's this actor being called? We're not getting to the end goal. Like that's, as someone who's trained as like a human scientist, I'm just like, wait a second, y'all. Am I losing it? Am I the only one here? I feel like I'm screaming like at the top of the hill alone because I'm like, what about the people? Sorry, that's
Yeah, I
that's
want to
my
hear the
my
Yeah.
vent.
I want to
And
hear
if
the
you're
rest of this story because
oh,
like first of all, I didn't know anything about the person Dewey. I only knew
oh,
Dewey Decimal System. So this is already shocking information for me.
Yeah, and I think now my biggest concern for our show today is that someone's going to dig him up and put him in charge of the Library of Congress. Anyway,
oh, that'll never happen.
so
The
we are going to
current
move
the
to
current
yeah.
librarian of Congress is a fantastic woman who would not she would take him down.
Nice. All right, so we have Tracy's link tree up, and I've got Tracy's bio, and I'm gonna read it. It doesn't do Tracy like no bio does anybody justice because it's just a bunch of words down. But uh, Tracy's right now principal of Sherpa Intelligence. She's held lots of really big roles, and I'll let Tracy give I'll let you give your history as much as or little as you want to do that. But as you heard, Tracy's been a librarian, and like one thing I wanted to note to everybody is I have a thing that I do at Carnegie Mellon with Carnegie Mellon with CISOs every couple times a year. One of them is to actually explain what data science is, and I think I'm the only person left that actually talks about library science as being a major component of data science. So I am thrilled to be able to talk to Tracy in an extended form here because I think it's one of the more crucial points that we miss a whole lot when we talk about data science, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. Tracy's got a Master of Library Information Science from the University of Pittsburgh and undergraduate degrees from Temple, and she's everywhere. She's done lots of cool things, and as you can see from her link tree, I already heard, going to be a keynote speaker in Dublin. Just all around amazing human, amazing individual, and I cannot believe you said yes to be on this podcast. So thank you so much, Tracy, for doing that.
Thank you for having me. It was such an honor to be invited. I'm thrilled to be here, and I do love to talk about how library science can make information security better.
So I know everyone asks you this question at the start of every interview you do, and we're not gonna like we're just gonna do it. You went from like a librarian and a library science degree, someone who, and we
Mhm.
we just heard you are an expert in this. We just heard a tiny bit of that already. What made you decide to go insane with the rest of us and join the cybersecurity crowd? Because seriously, normally the librarians are smarter than that. So I'm just curious, why did you want to save us from ourselves? Like, why are you here to help us?
And actually, I was a travel agent before I was a librarian. So I have a long history of, research-based roles and things like that. So maybe that's a talk for another podcast episode. Yeah. So what happened was I had been in mostly law firm libraries. I have also worked as a librarian at universities. I worked at Penn State. I worked at community college. I worked for QVC as a librarian. Yes, the home shopping show. Uh, that was fun, to be honest. I could hear Joan Rivers in the hall before I saw her coming, and I saw the Quacker Factory lady. If you know, you know. So that was quite exciting. So what happened was I had been at this for a while. Coming up on like a decade, and and actually, it's an interesting question to answer now because the times in 2014 were kind of similar uh, to now, and this is what got me thinking was in 2014, 2013, there was a lot of law firms closing, a lot of law firms merging, and I was a law firm librarian, and I always say law firm librarian instead of law librarian because law librarian uh, most of the time implies that you have a JD as well as a Master's of Library Science. I do not. So I was a law firm librarian. Um, so I just didn't, with all these firms closing and me having all this experience in a law firm, I didn't want to be one of many librarians on the street looking for a job. So uh, I used to read a lot on the train on my commute, and I saw this article in Entrepreneur Magazine. It was How to Future Proof Your Career for 2015. Keep in mind, this was 2014 when I was reading this. And it was encouraging you to to what's a new role or a new area to explore and how to find that, and the suggestion was go back through all your past jobs, or if you don't have that many jobs, look at classes or things like that. Is there a common thread? Can you pull a common thread together? And I realized quickly that tech was my common thread. Whichever job I was in, I always enjoyed any technical aspect, whether that was literally fixing a printer or one job I found this back channel email system that nobody knew existed. The email address was like 30 plus characters long. It was bonkers. Um, so I realized that I like tech. So I started to think, okay, let me dip a toe into this tech world. So I decided on January 1st, 2015. Actually, I decided on New Year's Eve that I was going to make 2015 the year of my career, and I was going to investigate tech and try to figure out a way that I could use my library science skills in another industry. Long story short, I did not like tech people. I went to so many meetups and workshops and things. I walked out of a Ruby on Rails class after about 20 minutes because I thought I never want to do this. And it cost me 20, 25, $30 for the workshop, but I feel like that was money well spent to rule that out of my life. I'm like, okay, you know what? This programming stuff is for me. And that is an important lesson I want to share with people. Like don't obsess over the cost over something. If you don't like it, you don't have to like it because you paid for it. It's a way to root it out so that you don't keep spinning your wheels. So yeah. So I was spinning my wheels a lot, and a friend of mine who was already doing back end security said, let me talk to you about cybersecurity, back end stuff. I think you'd be good at it. I think you'd like it. The people are different. And yeah, I started going to more like cybersecurity related events. I was like, oh, these are my nerds. Okay. These are my people. So, but there was something inside me that I can't really articulate, but I just knew that my library science skills would be useful in information security. Um, because library science, you're about being a steward of information, and being neutral, and being there to help. And I just feel like that with the chaos of information security, that we need more library science voices. There was a lot of things I picked up on, even just in my first week in the SOC. My first role was as a SOC analyst, and how I got hired for that is the company said, we can teach you the tech. We can't teach someone all these other skills you have. I have a liberal arts background, I have the library science degree. Um, and it was true. There was a lot of things that I look at differently as a result than a technical person, and just my training in general. And that's definitely something I'm going to expound upon on our podcast here. But even just the first week into the SOC, when somebody replied to an email I sent and said, "Oh, there's actually people in the security department. I thought it was just all computers." And I remember asking in the SOC, I'm like, "Do you never talk to the end users?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, if we, not if we can help it, no, we don't talk to them." And that's the antithesis of being a librarian, because you need to be approachable. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term librarian face. A lot of us who went through library school lament that we have librarian face, because people will come up to me just out of the blue. I had this one woman in Boulder, Colorado, true story. My first time in Boulder, walking down the street with my husband, this woman came up to me and she pointed at me and she said, "You look like you know stuff." And then proceeded to ask me a question about Boulder, which I was able to answer correctly because I'm a dork and I studied the map of Boulder before we went there. And my husband's just like, "Why does this happen to you?" I'm like, "It's librarian phase." So I proudly brought my librarian face into information security because it makes me more approachable. I have all kinds of stories of how people have told me straight up, "I feel more comfortable coming to you with this security issue than rather going to the security team," because the security team, maybe they don't realize it, but they might be off-putting, they might be gruff, they might be condescending. And that's not my training as a librarian. And that's why I created that talk. Um, uh, Empathy as a service to create a culture of security. And I take the 7 steps of a reference interview, which is how do you figure out what a library patron wants, and turn that into something for information security, of using those skills and those library science mindset and principles to address information security. And one of them is being approachable. And I can think of a lot of incidents I think I most likely prevented from happening because I have librarian face and being approachable. And don't worry, you too can get librarian face if you want. But just by being approachable. I feel like when I first joined information security, it very much felt like Cartman from South Park when he wore the cop outfit. Respect my authority. To me, I think to a lot of people, that's what an information security team looks
Yes.
like. It looks a lot of like, do as I say, not as I do. Respect my authority. Um, and not how library world works.
You
So,
just
yeah.
you just listed about 65 things that this industry needs to do better.
Right.
We have such, and I've had this thought before, like haven't really explored it, but like, what is the root of why InfoSec has such a respect my authority vibe? And maybe it's because they started out with tech controls that were legit, blocking, unblocking, whatever. So they were
Mhm.
marshaled into some sort of decision making, even though they had no like actual training in doing so or whatever. Yes, Todd, I see a light bulb.
We hate the user.
Oh, okay,
We are
great.
actively
Because they make
opposed
work.
to the user. And I think that is like the fundamental difference between a librarian's point of view and their role in an information sharing
I love
organization
it.
and an InfoSec person's view and their
Yeah.
role in an information hoarding organization, right? It's like that, and that's just what I don't know. Like I haven't been sitting on this or anything. Like as Tracy was talking, I'm like, oh right, we are in general, not everybody, obviously, not all the time.
Yeah.
Just really, really opposed to the user doing things. Like I remember we did like we had a webcast many years ago that I still think about today, involving like the financial industry, and we like the biggest feedback we got was like, please stop telling us to stop clicking on Excel sheets because that is my job
Mhm.
all of the time. And I'm like, right, but macros is like, yeah, I need the macros because they do the job. Like
I don't care. Give me the macros. Yes.
And I'm like, oh
And-
wow, we have totally misunderstood. Like
SAP
how
is
you
built on
use-
macros. That's all we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely plenty of librarian social media accounts that hate patrons. But I think
Mhm.
the difference is that librarians do it subtly, um, you know, and InfoSec people do it to your face.
Put that on a shirt.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's still there. So that's why in my empathy as a service talk, I introduced the concept of, the saying, bless their heart. Bless your heart for trying. And for those who are unaware, that's a very Southern phrase. I am not Southern, but I do love steel magnolias. So every once in a while, I like to channel my inner senior citizen Southern lady. Um, it's not compliment, for those of you unaware, but it's a nice way of saying something mean. And and why I bring it up is I found that to be a good stress reliever of, in the sock, seeing someone click on what I would think would be a very obvious phishing email. And, you do my due diligence as a SOC analyst, everything was fine, but just take a deep breath and just, well, bless their heart for trying, I just, and for me that works. And that's why I try to, you don't say that to an end user, but to try to make yourself feel better, like, all right, they're doing their best, but bless their pudding head, Um, so,
The theory I have about this though is that because cybersecurity professionals are so ineffective against the actual adversary that we just take it out on the users because they're there and we can do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty
it
sure that's why we do
really
that.
aggravates me because I see the end users as the infantry, as the front line. They're seeing this stuff, act with them as a partner, not as a subordinate. The one story that I like to tell is I don't know if I want to say former employers, but I was at this one employer, and the security team was requested to have a meeting with the manager of an engineering team. The manager wanted the security team to evaluate this free open source platform. And the I was new, so I was kind of quiet, but the people on the team, and I'm sorry, gentlemen, but the guys on the team were really putting this male manager through the ringer. And he finally stopped the meeting and said, "Why do I feel like I'm being punished because I asked, security to evaluate something for us?" And that really hit me hard. I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're not doing our job here. We're too busy, you know, telling him that this is bad, telling the manager that this is bad, and not offering any help. So that's when I spoke up, and I asked, what is prohibiting you from having the more secure paid version? And the response was, was budget. Okay, who is the person who approves your budget? Give me their information. So wrote up a an explanation of, you know, they're gonna be forced to use this insecure free model when it is highly recommended that you find the money. I don't think I use that phrase, but to be more secure. So long story short, yes, they got the money because it was explained to them the differences. And I hate to think what would have happened if I wasn't there, because there's always this attitude of just shut it down, insecure.
Hmm.
But you have to, but there's some reasons behind it. So okay, so tell me why, what is the reason why you're pursuing this free open source? What's the reason behind it? Do you not know that there's a more secure paid version? In this case, this manager did know it but couldn't afford it. So yeah, I feel like I bring different things to the table, and I feel like there is that sense of almost bullying in a way. And I kind of came up with an explanation for it. I feel like a lot of infosec folks are kind of like the island of misfit toys. If you're
Hmm.
familiar with
Hmm.
was it Rudolph? That's from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But I mean this in a good way because I'm on it too. I'm a misfit toy. But I feel like for so long, security folks were kind of considered the island of misfit toys. There are some very exceptionally brilliant people in our field, and what happens in our society? They usually get ostracized, stuffed into lockers and things like that. So I can't help but think that it's maybe just, a lifetime of being talked down to for being so smart, and that it just kind of comes out that way now that people need our help. So trying to be respectful of that, I try to give talks to let people understand of like, you don't have to be this way. You can be like a librarian, and you can have your anonymous blog where you talk crap about patrons all day, but to their face you're helpful and you're memorable. So yeah, that's definitely something I noticed, and just I do my best to try and change some way of thinking, because I started saying this a couple of years ago, and I feel like people made fun of me. And now, actually, I saw a tweet today, somebody saying it. It's like the problem's not technical or digital, the problem's human.
Yeah.
So I feel
I
like
hope.
librarians are a little bit better at addressing the human problem, and then the data, then the digital part. Because when a patron comes into the library, you have to talk to them first to find out what they want. And then you go into, the online catalog, or you go into the stacks or something. You deal with the human first. And I feel like InfoSec kind of missed that message.
I hope everyone that's listening or watching that is involved in any way with hiring, whether it's on the interview like chain or actually the hiring manager, but like I hope that you're paying like really close attention to the the subline here of transferable skills, how this brings in diversity of thought into the field. InfoSec is a newer field. Library science is not. Communication is not. Like there are very thoroughly studied older professions that have a trillion million learnings and things that we need to as an industry adopt, learn from, or at least ingest and build from, right? But
100%. Yeah.
transferable
I'm
skills.
laughing because Glenn is almost like word for word giving my talk in top.
Oh no, it's a pet peeve,
No, no,
right? But
no,
it's
no.
also yeah.
I'm thrilled that you picked up on that, because
it's-
no, I'm like, damn, like you. So do you want to be my backup for it in case I can't make?
Tracy, Glenn has this habit. He gave my talk at B-Sides last year.
No, please go on. I'm compelling because you're nail it on the head, and clearly I'm articulating
Yeah,
this
I definitely don't
correctly
want to
because
speak for you. I just
you're
wanted to
picking up
call.
what I'm throwing down.
Yeah, call that out. Like it matters to the greater good, and if we're in this for the greater good, which you should be, because it's definitely not for the relaxing day by day things that we do, then this is something that you should care about and support, and that requires speaking up, like Tracy was just saying. That requires mentioning to people that might be on a hiring panel to be like, hey, okay, so I see these 3 candidates, they are all alike in this way. What haven't you explored? Like, just introduce the thought so that people kind of have it there.
Yeah,
I
exactly. And there's a lot of librarians that are facing cuts and job loss, and I I've been helping librarians. I don't have a lot coming to me, but I do get private notes on my LinkedIn, and like, please help me change industries like you did. They're about to close our library. Yeah, I think that understanding these different skill sets will help make InfoSec better. And yeah, I keep telling people to please hire, try to hire more librarians, hire people with liberal arts backgrounds. I can learn the tech. People can learn the tech. It's this other stuff that we need help with.
So Glenn and I have hogged a lot of question time. I want to make sure I give Todd and please, either one of you, if you have any questions you want to ask, because this could be a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast right now, because like literally Tracy has that much information. I mean, better than Joe Rogan, but whatever. But do you guys have any questions that you want to toss out before I dig into something else?
I've got so many. I will ask one question, but first, Tracy, thank you so much for sharing this background. I really think this speaks to the importance of interdisciplinary work. And as someone who also is often screaming about, like, what about the end user, as you can tell from my rant on vulnerability remediation, very much relate to what you're saying. And I feel like all of us could just talk for hours. I guess one question I have for you. This is such an amorphous question, but like, what is a way to start moving the needle in the security industry? Like Glenn already touched on this by saying, when you're hiring, keep this in mind, that it's not just the technical skills, but it is also these other skills that are commonly referred to as soft skills. I really disagree with that, actually. I think that's so important, especially in a field like security that needs this injection of empathy. But what are the conversations that you are having with other folks, or what is a way to bring empathy more into the conversation in a field where it has traditionally not been a part of the circle?
Excellent question. Yeah, I mean, many times I just feel like I'm out here myself with my torch, carrying a torch for this, but it's word of mouth. I mean, talking about it, writing blog posts, giving talks, giving podcasts, talking about it on podcasts. Um, I've said this for a couple years. I've said that we as InfoSec people need to get into SHRM, which is a like an HR professional society. We need to get into the groups that do the hiring to explain to them that a CISSP is not an entry level certification. We need to explain to them the value of looking at people with backgrounds that aren't computer science or cybersecurity, because a cybersecurity bachelor's degree is probably what, 5 years old, maybe 10 years old at this point. Um, that yeah, that you need. So I feel like that's one way, is to get more into the pipeline of the people doing the hiring. It's being loud about it. It's talking about it. I'm very grateful and pleased that folks that I've mentioned it to have gone on to do something with it. I know that there's a book that specifically, and I'm apologize, I'm blanking on it, and it's not near me to hold it up, but there is a book that talks about information security, and it did specifically mention like that hiring librarians was the best thing this one SOC manager ever did. And I have and the author signed the copy, signed his book for me. He found me at a Sands event, and he was like, "I wrote about you in my book," and he didn't mention me by name, but he mentioned that. So it's things like that. It's spreading the word, because I think if you've only ever done tech, you have a hard time understanding what a librarian's skill set is. I know I have a lot of people, not so much now because I've been in infosec for a couple of years, but at first it was, real condescending of like, "Oh, do you know what it's like to work in a busy SOC?" I'm like, "Do you know what it's like to work for an AmLaw 100 international law firm?" Like, it's not like I'm sitting there reading all day. I'm dealing with, high-powered attorneys, multi-million dollar lawsuits. I've worked on some pretty big name lawsuits. The collapse of the Ted Williams tunnel in Boston. I did that. I did some research in non-English languages for a 9/11 related stuff. I worked for a law firm the law firm that tried to sue Saudi Arabia over 9/11. The name partner of the firm overheard me speaking French one day to someone and was like, "I want you to do research in French." So, uh, I know
And
where I'm
that's all
going with that,
before
but
AI.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of skill sets, and a lot of skills, yeah, that you can do to to bring this out. And just real quick, I did want to say, my I only kind of touch the surface of how I got into information security. So when I spent that year of exploring my career, uh, I was told about the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. I took a cybersecurity 101 2-day workshop with them, and they had me at port scanning. I was like, "Where has this been all my life? This is really cool." And uh, so from there, cybersecurity became my quirky hobby. And this is what I tell folks too, especially if you're trying to get into the industry. Let it be your quirky hobby for a little bit while you get into it, because also you may figure out you don't like it, like with me with tech. It's okay to change your mind. I never went out and told everyone I'm going to go be a tech person. I tried it. I didn't like it, but pivoted to cybersecurity. Um, so in September 2015, I emailed the CIO of the firm and said, "What's the firm doing for Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October?" And he was like, "What's Cybersecurity Awareness Month?" So I compiled this 5-point plan. I said, every Friday we're going to have an infographic, go out to everyone, just kind of introducing these terms to them and stuff. Because remember, keep in mind, this was 2015. So, in fact, that the CIO wasn't even aware of the cybersecurity awareness month, kind of tells you some things. So I sent him my proposal. He said, "I love it. You're going to run this," and assigned a help desk person and a marketing person to me. And we did this. We did, the perils of free Wi-Fi, um, phishing, don't be a good catch, things like that. But what happened November 1st is I was like, "Great, what else can I do?" And the CIO said, "Well, you can do that again next year." And my joke is I had tasted the blood of cybersecurity and I wanted more. So that's when I started my plan to start Sherpa Intelligence, uh, that I was going to, talk to my husband and I. We figured out, what I could do to change careers. And I spent a year and a half as this independent freelancer, going to conferences. Um, you know, Even I started presenting what little I knew. I went and presented that. And it took me a year and a half, but I did so much networking, went to so many conferences, studied everything. I would listen to podcasts and just did my due diligence, and then eventually, I broke through and was able to get into a SOC, and the rest from there. So, um, you know, it I had to work hard to make this career transition. I don't want also librarians to think that you can just jump from a librarian job into this. You do need to put some work into it. But also for people who are maybe skeptical about someone with my background coming into infosec, I put my time in. I'm not that technical to be an engineer, but I'm technical enough that I can help explain the complicated to the end user. But conversely, I can also help explain to the more technical folks the problems the end user's having, because they oftentimes, I realize, they don't see it. I would hear people in the SOC talking to an end user, and I heard the word motherboard once, and I knew who they were talking to, and I started waving my hands, and I said, don't say motherboard when you're talking to that the secretary in that office, and like, no offense to the secretary, but I know that they don't know what you're talking about. So,
I have to say, this is the
yeah.
best like cybersecurity month story I've ever heard, because we like to kick on October, but like, hey, good things can happen. All right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's a good time. Actually, now's a good time. I recommend that people in InfoSec reach out to your public library and mention October now, because libraries usually plan at least 6 months in advance. So reach out to your library. I actually have blog posts that I've written about how to do this. I've given all kinds of talks at libraries. I gave one talk to senior citizens. One woman in the audience didn't have a computer, didn't have an email or anything, and I jokingly asked, well, why are you here? And she said, well, I can still drive. So she drove a bunch of people. But when I got to the part of my talk that dealt more with social engineering, then I made sure she was paying attention. And like, okay, so I'm done with the digital stuff. Let's talk about people. So, um, yeah, sorry, I think I'm all over the place, but no, I'm just excited to talk about this. There's so many different ways that I use my library science skills to help people become aware. What you really want to do is you want to empower them. And I feel like that's missing a lot in InfoSec. It's not just like telling someone what to do. It's teaching them to fish, right? You're going to
Build
get
them up.
frustrated. Like, you're gonna get like, I understand why InfoSec people get frustrated. It's like, oh, they keep clicking on the same links all the time. Okay, but how are you addressing it to them? And I have a great example of this. We used to every day, the same woman would always submit the daily company-wide update email to, as phishing every single day. And I would watch as people around me would just say the most meanest things about this woman and get really frustrated. So finally, I just kind of took control and I called her up, prefaced it with, "You're not in trouble. Just have a question for you." And I said, "I've noticed that every day we see you submit this as phishing." I said, "Can you tell me why?" And her response was, "I thought that's what I was supposed to do." So, which made me think that maybe at some point they use the daily company update as a phishing simulation.
Wow.
That was my guess anyway. So
Probably
I
that's a
didn't
great guess. That is a great guess. Yeah. Wow.
that's what I'm thinking. So rather than, like, okay, I didn't explain that to her, because I was just like, okay, I understand. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm new here. I don't know what happened in the past, but I can tell you as of now, that email that you keep submitting is safe. Um, but if you would rather not receive it, I'll show you how you can unsubscribe from it. And then like a couple days go by and somebody's like, I haven't seen so and so submit this. I'm like, yeah, because I took care of it, because
Wow.
I talked to her as a human. And I feel like that really encapsulates, the abilities that someone from a different background can really do to help. And because every day that was clogging up the question, like, we know this is safe. Why does she keep doing this? Talk to her, ask her. I don't know why she thought she had to. There was probably a mistaken judgment previously, which made her think that. So I like to share these stories as ways that, yeah, you don't have to,
Yeah.
you don't have to be the sheriff all the time. You don't have to be mean. That doesn't get anyone anywhere. If, empathy is a service, I highly recommend
That's
it.
amazing.
And empathy doesn't mean weakness.
Right.
And that's what I think also a lot of more technical minded people were like, oh, I'm gonna look weak. No, you're gonna look like a human being who knows what they're doing
Yeah.
because you're
Exactly.
addressing the human issue. Because the issue with the woman submitting the safe email wasn't a tech issue, it was a human issue.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so yeah,
So
I
for
have
the
lots of
listeners,
stories like that. Yep.
well, and we're gonna have you back on because I literally have 3 other subjects I want to talk. I want us to talk to you about, and we did not cover
Hmm.
them. So you're definitely. I mean, if you're willing to have us again, you are absolutely coming back on to talk about those. I want to pick your brain for one more thing in a second. So for watchers, listeners, we'll throw a link in the show notes to how the Ukrainians are outsmarting the Russians by sending drones in that deliberately crash so that they can spread malware through all the systems that try to like decode their secrets, which is amazing. The other one, which one of our esteemed colleagues internally was noting, there was an interesting tab name on my Chrome tabs, and that's because there are adversaries that are weaponizing certain kinds of toys, which that's the whole risque business thing. So you might want to look at that link just because nothing is safe. Nothing is safe anymore. And you can read our own blogs at our own time. I want to make sure we all
I
talk
had
about
so
where
many
we're gonna
good
be at our
one-liners for that story.
yeah.
I was
Well, then
ready.
maybe for you, we'll talk about it next week, but or whatever. But I want us to all talk about what we're doing at RSA. But before we do that, you had a great thing about for folks that are attending RSA, maybe even for the first time, but maybe not. Tracy, you had some advice for just folks that are new to the industry or junior folks. It's great advice. So what was your advice for that first?
Oh, yes. I said that especially if you're new to the industry, definitely work the exhibit hall. Go up to a vendor booth. Don't be shy. Just say, "Hi, I'm new. I'm unfamiliar with your company. Can you take a moment to tell me what you do? What are your services? What are your products?" And as when I shared this story earlier, the only time I ever had a negative reaction was at a developers conference, not an InfoSec conference. I've gone up to some major names in our industry, and without any attitude or condemnation or anything, the booth people were always very excited to show me, talk to me, because that's their job. And I know everyone's always like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to them because I can't buy anything." Just say that. Don't waste their time and don't waste yours. Just, "Hi, I'm brand new in this company," which I think most people will translate to, okay, they don't have any purchasing power. So you maybe not even have to say it. Sometimes even if you say your title, but just say, I want to learn this. And, what more does a company want but to have, brand recognition? So you have a fresh body there to impress
That's
upon.
exactly.
So
And
don't be shy. Just admit, "Look, I want to know more about your company. I don't know anything. I would like some of those socks you're giving away. But can you tell me
well,
what your
actually, yeah.
services are?"
And the socks and the shirts are important because like the tariffs are going to jack the prices up this year. So get your clothing at RSA this year, guys. Just go to everything that's out there.
Yes.
Bob,
Yeah.
somebody
Todd,
beat Bob.
Todd, first of
Yeah.
all, please shout out the Run Zero hour, and also let us know where you're going to be at RSA.
Yes, tomorrow. If you're listening to this right now on Tuesday, April 15th, in approximately 26 hours, I will be on the Run Zero hour, where we're going to talk about Run Zero stuff. And by we, I mean the inestimable Rob King, who is responsible for a lot of the stuff in Run Zero's products. We're going to be it's all Run Zero stuff. So if you like Run Zero, you like our things we do, you should definitely tune in for that. That's tomorrow, Wednesday. If you just Google or Bing or Ask Jeeves on Run Zero Hour, you will find it. Also, go to your favorite search engine and look up Run Zero, one word, San Francisco, two words. First hit should be everything we're doing in San Francisco. We've got something going on every day.
We just dropped a link to we just dropped links to everybody about this, so you're good. You're good.
Wonderful.
And are you gonna hang by our booth, right? You're hanging by the Gray Noise booth.
I am camping at the Gray Noise booth. I am with Tracy, where I actually like working the expo floor. I got myself an expo pass. It's $99, and you can seek out if you're like not new to the industry and just want to like talk to nerds about their cool nerdy thing. They often have engineers on site, and so like you can figure out which ones are. Honestly, they're all worth talking to because they're all, wonderful human beings. But like, there's going to be there's probably 10 somebodies who are doing things that are kind of similar to you or totally different from you. These are the people you want to talk to, right? And so this is a way, like, I get the most out of RSA, honestly, on the expo floor. I never go to the talks. I sometimes go to like the free expo talks that are there sometimes because they're smaller. But I almost always just spend time at the booths. Great.
And I can't say goodbye to Tracy. We lost Tracy. Oh my!
Tracy,
are you going? Are you going? Or does Census have a booth this year? Are you hanging with us? What's the deal?
Yeah, so I
battery
will not
died.
be going. I know. Yeah, her Tracy's battery died, so hopefully she'll be back. which is also why she departed quickly. So I will not be at RSA, but Census will be. I think we're booth like 4,600 or something. And we have various events. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I think similarly, if you Google Census, RSA 2025, there will be a list of events. There will be some fantastic folks there. I will not be there, but hopefully I will see folks all in August for Black Hat TBD.
You know, and we will be there, except we does not include Glenn or myself, because we have to hold the fort back here while everyone goes there and does the real work. And Overwatch is going to be there, so go there. She's like the nicest, bestest human being on the planet. So just go say hello. Ask first and then give Ashley a hug, because she's just the best. She's the best. Don't stop that.
We love Overwatch. Overwatch, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's great. I don't think we're going to be able to hang long enough for Tracy to come back. So Tracy, if you can hear us or you can read this later, thank you so much for coming on. Such a wealth of information. There's literally 4 other subject areas she has great knowledge in that we need to tap in a future episode. So stay tuned for that. We're absolutely going to do that. This was a great uplifting thing as well. So that is it for this episode of Stormwatch, where the only thing dropping faster than drone malware is our sense of normalcy. Whether you're navigating a forecast of flying exploits, dodging explosive surprises, or just trying to keep your cyber skies clear, remember, stay patched, stay curious, and don't let the hybrid hailstorms catch you off guard. Until next time, may your only bugs be in your code, your blue skies stay interrupted. Catch you next week, everybody.